All right. Welcome to another edition of the Hack Attack and the Pharaoh podcast. We have a very special guest today, Latoya Cameron. Thank you for
Hello.
joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. We are waiting on our special guest, Hack Attack, or our special host, Hack Attack. He's usually the heart of the program. He usually starts everything off, and then I interject here and there when he gets a little off the rails. Is our mo thus far, and we've done 10 episodes, and that's usually how it works. But he is on his way here. He just got done with some school stuff, and he should be here momentarily. But this is interesting. So as an actor, I am interested to know, because we've talked about this on a couple episodes, what is your clock as far as arrival times?
Oh, like to the space
Yeah, or to anything.
or to anything? I mean, it's nice to be there at least for me, 10 minutes, 15 minutes early,
Okay.
just to kind of like get there because I innately just have like my own anxieties always going into anything. I always just have to kind of take a moment for myself to get rooted and grounded when I'm in any space. And then when I
Sure.
finally feel like I'm ready to like step into it, I'm not doing it like right at the time I'm supposed to be there.
You're not
And just
walking in, dropping your bags, taking your
right,
coat off, and let's do this.
right, exactly. But I will, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like there have been occasions where I'm like running so like behind where I don't get to do that. And because
Sure.
of parking or whatever, unexpected things
Stuff
happen.
happens. Shit happens.
Exactly. So then I come
Yeah.
running in, I'm like, I'm anxious and I just barely made it and like, let's work. But then it's like all hyper and weird and
Gotcha.
awkward.
Yeah. Yeah. So Hack Attack has the clock of 5 minutes after is on time.
Oh,
He's perpetually late to things,
you know what? I get
which
that too.
which was a lot of fun at the ATP, which the actor training program at the University of Utah for our listeners that we haven't explained that to. Um, but yeah, he was perpetually late. He had it timed door to door, 45 minutes. He used to live in Park City. So he'd time it and he'd be like, I got 45 minutes, not planning for any of those, occasions that come about or
Hmm.
traffic hits or accidents, parking, not planning for that. He planned for everything when it's perfect.
Right. Well, like
So
you could have some you can have find some difficulties finding some parking, especially in the parking lot. You're like, you can even get there early and still end up being like running late because there's just nothing there.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
Especially at the University of Utah, because you've been around,
oh
Pioneer, and
yeah.
finding parking around there is a nightmare.
Yes, it's almost like a comedic joke where you're like, I'm here 20 minutes early and I'm going to be late.
No, I don't have a pass.
Don't judge.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just dive right in. I'm not going to go with the all encompassing who is Latoya Cameron. We'll break it down into little segments, but tell us what you do. What is it that your passion is that you do for a living?
I like to think of myself as an artist and a storyteller in just in stories. Oh, has someone
Wait,
arrived?
hold on just 1 second. I got to make
Yeah.
sure I didn't lock the front door. I'm going to have to edit that part and put in some like Jeopardy music. Do, 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 do. Dead air. We had dead air. But now Jason Hack Attack Hackney is here. We love it. We love it. We're going. We thought it would be fun. It's a good part of the show.
All right. So you want the intro?
we did that.
Well, I had a whole
Latoya was. You have a whole thing. Do it.
Latoya. Hello.
Yes,
I
hi.
mean, as aforementioned, this is the Hack Attack and Pharaoh podcast. I'm the Hack Attack. I'm a former radio DJ with a defunct show because of COVID, and with me is my Pharaoh, my co-host, illustrious, sexy, very handsome, great jawline. Hell of an actor in his own right and a former miscreant and current scallywag. But with us in studio, well, with us now across Zoom, the lovely Latoya Cameron,
Hello.
formidable actress in her own right, I understand. What is up? Hello.
Yeah, hello. It's a beautiful day today. I can't complain about that.
You're here in Salt Lake.
I'm in Salt Lake.
Oh, yeah, it's like 70. This is
Yeah,
unbelievable.
it's so glorious.
So I've done some research on you.
Oh,
And it
dear.
is you who seems glorious.
Yes.
Man. So to catch us all up, everyone who's listening, yes, all three of you, this is an incredible local
They all
actress.
love us though. We have a few listeners, but they do love us. So
They're
that's something.
obsessed.
They're obsessed.
No, we're underplaying ourselves. We at least have 4. So Latoya is an incredible local actress, and what
But
it looks like,
nationally,
yes, what it looks like is you have done a lot. You have been all over the place. But what interested me about you was that it started with humble origins, because you were a shy kid. You were a quiet kid. You didn't think you had this in you, or rather your middle school theater teacher didn't think you had this in you. And theater has drawn you out of yourself. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I mean, when you grow up in in beautiful or any space, like any place that you grew up in, I just was a shy person. It was really hard for me to feel included in a lot of spaces. Not only because I'm just innately shy, but also as a Black woman or a Black little girl, not seeing a lot of people who reflect you besides your own family is something that, makes you a little bit more like your perspective or your sight of everything is just kind of a little bit different.
Yeah.
And so I drew in a lot within like my own imagination and stuff. But I always loved the movies. I always loved movies. My family is a big cinema people.
Cinematic?
Is that what cinematic? There's the word. Thank you. Cinematic
family.
people. So we enjoyed watching movies and stuff like that. So I fell in love with Forrest Gump.
Oh,
It was that little ending always hit me so hard.
where he's gonna sit there all day waiting for his kid.
Yeah, or even that moment where they meet each other and like he asks the simplest question and it
Is he
hit
okay,
me.
or is he like me?
Yeah, or is he like me?
These classic moments.
It hit me so hard, and I didn't understand how someone or something like that could hit me like that intensely as a kid. And I was like, I want to do that, but I was shy, So then I watched also Baz Luhrmann's interpretation of Romeo and Juliet, and I was
plus
like,
Juliet, sure,
right? Like, come on. And so it just like hit me again, where I'm like, I want to be doing that. So
how old were you when you were being influenced by these films?
Like, when did Forrest Gump come out? Like 1994 or something?
Oh yeah.
So I'm not going to age myself, but
you were
but I was a young
child,
girl
between 7 and 14.
Yes, and then R&J, like I was like 14 probably.
Wow.
So I remember sitting in my math class, and the math teacher was also the drama teacher. And I just stopped her one day, and she didn't really know who was talking. She kind of looked around like, who's saying anything? And I was like, it's like me in that cartoon, like tugging on the teacher's shirt or whatever. Be like, it's me. But I was like, I would love to be in your drama class. And she was like, you really want to do that? And I was
math
like, yes.
teacher also doubled as the
drama teacher.
Theater teacher.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, I know. Trust me. It was, now I'm understanding that it's a little strange, but, or not. It's also awesome. But, yeah. And she was like, I don't think you'd really be into that. And I was like, I'll fake cry because I've been practicing, like holding my eyes open. Yes. I was like, just leave your eyes open. And that's how they cry in the movies.
That's all there is to it, really.
That's all, I can do it. So I was ready. And she was just kind of taken back, like, what is this? Who is this girl? Like, I've met you, but not you, like this. And she said, let me think about it. She said, please, God, don't do that. And then she said, let me think about it and I'll come back to you. And so eventually she came back to me and said, wow. Yeah, I'll let you.
She had to think about it. She had to take you in.
She did. Yeah. Because she was like, I was like, when I say shy, it was like painfully shy.
Like Adrian from Rocky shy, to use another cinematic reference. What kind of shy are we talking about?
Probably even more so worse than that.
Why? So you said that
wait, where? Just real quick, where did you grow up? Exactly?
She's from Kaysville.
Kaysville, Utah.
Did you do your research?
I did. I didn't come across that place.
So, you said you were shy, painfully shy.
Yeah.
And you say partly because were you the only Black girl in school?
Besides my other sister, there's like maybe her or maybe one other person, so maybe
So
three or.
you were aware of that,
Oh yeah.
obviously. But
hmm
what else produces shyness in you? Was it just your personality? Was it things
I
that
think it's
happened
my
to you? What?
personality. I mean, I was bullied a lot too.
No.
Really?
For
So,
what?
oh yeah. Oh man, my hair was different, my
Oh my God.
skin, like it's like
That
Kaysville's dope, and also it's like has its very heavy racist
Yeah.
you were
tendencies.
racially bullied as a kid?
Oh yeah,
What would they
harshly.
say?
Probably stuff I can't say
Oh
on,
man.
the first time that I was ever called the N-word was in elementary
No.
school. Oh
No
yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Do you recall the names of any of these kids? And maybe we can find
Actually,
some addresses and
I do
How can we
remember.
eviscerate them on media?
I know, I'm like, I don't remember everyone's names, but I do remember one specific kid. His name is Ziggy. We called him Ziggy.
Ziggy.
And he actually was there when it happened, and he could tell how I was hugely affected by it and in shock. And he went up to the teacher and told on that person in behalf.
Nice.
And he was like, that's so wrong. And he was like, you don't have to take anything like that.
So
Kind
we're
of thing.
fans of Ziggy. In
We're
retrospect.
fans of
We love
Ziggy.
Ziggy.
Ziggy
Nice.
was the first probably ally I've ever encountered in my
Ziggy's the
life.
man.
Sorry, we've got Jason's dog Perth with us.
Hi, doggy. I have
Well,
my
I
dog
have
too.
a puppy, and he's been sick all day and subdued until now.
Now he's
Hey.
jigging at
I
the
prefer
welcome
him
mat.
more febrile and flu-like. Now he's clawing away at something, but
Yeah.
it's not my house, so I'm at peace with it.
Right?
Living his life. Live your life, doggy.
So you were shy as a kid,
hmm
and theater. What was the first? So tell me about that first moment that really clicked for you.
So, oddly enough, the teacher who let me into the class didn't teach anymore. And so it was a new drama teacher. And so she gave everybody, all the girls in the class at the time, a Bernard Shaw, St. Joan monologue. And then all the boys, a different monologue from, what was it? Glass Menagerie. And I remember memorizing it and stuff because I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I just kind of was like, what they do in the films, Excuse me. You just like emote and just do things, right? So she asked on the day that we were going to perform the monologues who wanted to go. And I was scared out of my mind watching everybody being amazing and me being like, I don't know what I'm doing. And why did I say that I wanted to be in this class? And so I was like,
Why
what
did
did I
I
get
do this to
myself
myself?
into? Right. So then I remember sitting there. She goes, who wants to go next? And I don't remember my hand shooting up into the air like I wanted to go. And my body was kind of doing it for me while inside I was like, what is happening? I'm moving and I'm not trying to do this. And I remember getting up there and kind of like taking notes from watching other people of like how they take their moment and close their eyes and get into
Sure.
character. And I did all those things. And then I just started to speak. And that moment of doing that monologue, it empowered my voice in a way that I didn't know I had already. And hearing myself through that character changed me.
Wow.
Immediately. And I remember sitting down and being like, oh wow, that's my voice. That's incredible. And that was the moment I was like, this is maybe something I should keep pursuing.
Wow.
So
It was St. Joan, you said?
Yeah, St. Joan.
Do you
That's
remember the
awesome.
monologue? Won't ask you to do it. I'm not one of those guys.
It's the one where she's talking to the council, and I think she's telling them like, just put me to death. Like being locked
Wow.
away
Yeah.
from everything is worse than death, So
Do your worst.
right, do your worst. And
Mhm.
that monologue, I was like, it was so empowering, and knowing that St. Joan has always been image that I've always resonated with the strength that she has and being so young and doing that monologue at that same kind of age range. Ooh, it was like just like a lightning bolt of like, holy cow, this is
something clicked.
Yeah, clicked
So
hard.
you were how old when this went down?
14.
14. And what was the first show you were in then as a result of this?
The worst, was it the worst or best Christmas pageant ever?
Is that the name?
Yeah, it's like, what is
Yeah,
it
what
called?
is that one?
The best, what is it called? The whole title. The
Oh,
worst Christmas pageant ever or the best? I can't remember, but
look it up.
it's that
Okay. Who
it's
were
that
you?
one. I was like the old woman who who was totally against the program, who was like, no, we shouldn't be doing this, and da 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 da. And then at the end is like so moved by it. She's like, oh, I always wanted this play to happen, and this is amazing.
The
Yeah.
fair weather.
Yes.
So how did it feel when you did that? When you first stepped on the stage, what do you remember?
I remember thinking, please don't let me forget these lines because I don't want to let anyone down.
That was you were nervous.
I was nervous out of my
How was the
mind.
stage fright? I mean, you were new to this. This was a novel experience.
Yeah.
How was the stage fright?
Oh, intense. I still deal with it today.
Yeah. So I was going to ask, are you still shy? Would you call yourself a shy person?
Yes, I would. Now I have better tools to know how to work through it, but I still am.
People think that's so ironic to find that a lot of actors are shy or inward, or sometimes sort of like the sad clown, right? A lot of comedians have sort of a tragedy or sadness to them, but we get it, right? I mean, it's sort of you're finding a way to use that muscle in ways that it sometimes just isn't in other parts of your life.
Yeah.
I remember equating it to when I played football. I'd always be really nervous until the first hit, and then I'd be fine. But it's kind of like being on here or on stage, you know, being nervous right up until you say those first words, or
right,
you know, you finally step out and you're in the show.
Or if you were a comedian, you know, that first laugh, that first wave of laughter from the audience, like, oh,
right,
this is going great.
Yes.
So what happened for you then? So you were in this, what was the name of the Christmas show?
I'm like, I want to look it up now. You would think I remember.
What happened then? How did the trajectory of your theater career go from then? What then happened?
Well, I loved it. I mean, it was so fun to work on something with a bunch of people. You know, being a person who was shy, I had like friends, but it was always hard to make friends. And so being in that environment really created an opportunity to, you know, step outside of myself and get to know everybody, you know, and understand that, you know, most people are probably going through a similar kind of situation of being shy or being bullied or what have you, that we can come to a common space and explore and play for at least, you know, what junior high is like, what, 30 minutes or something, you know, before you have to go somewhere else. But it was like it felt very, the beginnings of feeling a little bit freer to open up to other people. So I was, really like, it made me focus too of like, well, how can I continue on doing this and see if it's something that I want to do? Because I feel like I feel like my younger Latoya was always like a little bit an old person, you know, the old soul of being like, what now? Oh, I see this is working. Well, how can I continue to make this work? You know, instead of being like a kid who's like, oh, cool, let's just play. You know, I was like, playtime means focus time. As I raise my glasses, but
wow, yes.
But like, yeah, that's after that, I was like, well, how can I do this in high school? You know,
that was my next question. So what happened in high school where that grows?
Well, I took a little detour and did some cheerleading, which was,
whoa,
I know,
acting.
which
you're not shy. What is all this shit about being shy?
I loved, you know, the arts. I realized like the arts are something I really loved. And so
it's an art.
It's like, it's dancing, you know, I was like, oh, I like to dance. So I get to dance and stuff, but ooh, you know, as they say, what is it? A zebra can't change their stripes. So I was still super shy, and like all the jock guys were like, what's up, Latoya? And I was like, hi. I was like, please don't talk to me. I don't know what to say.
Did you do a chin wave? Hi.
Yes, but it was more of like doe-eyed and like, hi. And they were like, okay, you're weird. And I was like, I am.
Wow.
So,
Weird, cool.
What's
weird,
up, Latoya?
cool. Weird, cool. Weird is cool. So but I was like, I want to still do, theater and stuff. I want to try to make it work. And of course, like high school cheerleading is no joke. They take that
Oh,
so
yeah.
seriously. And I was like, I just wanted to dance, and wear the uniforms and kind of get outside of myself. And that didn't work.
How long did you do that for?
Oh, I did that for what, 2 semesters, and then just really, really hard stuff happened in my life, where my grades dropped and I got kicked off. To be honest,
what?
yeah,
You got kicked off of the cheerleading squad?
yeah, mhm.
Wow. Want to tell us what happened?
Yeah. Well, my parents got a divorce, so
Sure.
yeah, and
Happens.
that happens, and it's as you're a teenager, it hits you in a really, really, really intense space, and
Oh, yeah.
you would think that, a high school cheerleading coach would understand that, and they did not.
They want the best from you, Latoya.
They were like, we
Yeah.
know you're going through a hard time, but your grades need to be here. Da, da, da. I was like, you understand that I'm going through a hard time, but no, you
But-
don't really actually care.
Yeah,
Okay,
but we're not going to do anything about it.
Operative
Yeah.
word is but.
Good luck, kid.
However-
exactly. Those butts they hit you hard, man.
Oh,
But
yeah.
So what do you do
Um,
then? So you get kicked off the cheerleading
kicked
squad.
off the cheer squad,
You're
and
lost. You're hurt. You're confused.
well, it's weird because I was like, I actually was relieved because I was still grappling with trying to make theater and cheer work. And they were like, you can't do both. And I was like, but I want to
Really?
do theater still, And so when that happened, I felt like, oh, okay. Well, then there's no question that I can just, go into focusing on theater again. So I auditioned for the One Act Festival that was being held,
Ooh.
and I got into one of the plays.
Nice.
So, and that
Look
kind
at
of
you.
opened me up to meeting the drama teacher. Can I say their name?
Do it.
Yeah.
Call 'em out.
Andra Thorne. I remember meeting her, and I remember her saying, because I was also in her intermediate acting class, and I did my first like Shakespeare monologue ever in front of that class. And she was like, she always looked at me like, you're doing a Shakespeare monologue for your first monologue, like for our monologue section. And most people are picking like random, stuff like you do in high school. And I was like, no, I want to do Shakespeare. And she was like,
Go for the throat.
huh.
Yeah.
Exactly. And she was like, what do you know? Like the look of like, what do you know about Shakespeare? And I was like, I watched R&J, Baz Luhrmann's, so I know Shakespeare. So I did the monologue, and the note that she said, I'll see you at advanced theater auditions.
Whoa, look at you.
And I was like, oh, wow, like, okay. So I auditioned for advanced theater my junior year, got into the class and did that for my junior and senior year. And Andra is like a huge, huge influence of why I'm still doing it today, because
What's her name?
Andra Thorne.
Okay.
She's
Very
incredible.
cool.
Shout out. So you continue to be in plays and really go for it in high school.
Yeah, and it was actually high school was the first time I ever did my first musical.
Oh, what was it?
It was West Side Story.
West Side
Nice.
Story.
Yeah.
Were
It
you a
was fun.
shark or were you a jet?
Oh, I was a shark.
Oh, damn.
We're in Utah, man.
Damn.
True.
Okay, so tell me about college. What happened beyond the
SUU,
sphere?
right?
SUU. Well, and it's funny because actually it started in high school. Yeah, I went to SUU, and the reason why I went there was because they do the
So SUU, Southern Utah University, for all the
exactly.
people listening.
Yeah, go T-Birds.
The T-Birds.
The T-Birds.
Thunderbirds?
Yes. Or is it Thunderbirds?
Well,
Y'all
is
see
that's short for
Oh,
Thunderbird?
yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Wow.
Good old Cedar City.
About that.
But I never even knew Cedar City existed until we went to the high school Shakespeare competition that Utah
Oh,
Shakespeare
yeah.
Festival throws or puts together every October for high schools. And I went my junior year, and I was like, I gotta be in the monologues, compete in the monologues because I want to get that scholarship. Because
Wow.
like I didn't come from a very wealthy family. and scholarships were going to be the only way I was going to get into college, you know. So I spent my summer looking and researching Shakespeare monologues to find the right one that fits me. And then at Davis High is where I went. We do a night of Shakespeare where judges will come in and they judge who can go and represent Davis High. So I got picked for the monologues, went to the Shakespeare competition, competed, and got first place and got the scholarship.
No.
Nice.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And then she got to work with T.
off.
Anthony Murata.
I did later on. I love Anthony Murata. He really, really pushed me, which I really, really appreciated, because he really saw the potential in students and wanted to make sure that we reached those potentials. Because sometimes, like in, you know, theater sometimes can become whimsical a little bit and like, oh, you're going like da da da, you know, like whatever. Sometimes he was very disciplined and instilled in me like a disciplinary approach to theater that sometimes other people didn't. And so I really, really appreciated him and his classes.
So how's that work ethic of yours? Pretty solid.
You know what? It has taken me some time to loosen up, to be real.
Loosen up.
Yes, because I'm
Loose and easy.
Loose and easy and free and stuff. Because like I was like, after college, you know, when you go into the world of theater, it's not like college, you know.
No.
And it took me a while to kind of really understand that.
Hold on.
Because I was like, no, oh, go ahead.
Did you major in theater?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, majored in theater, acting,
You've
and
gone all the way
directing.
down the line here.
I did. Who knew? It like opened, like I kid you not, that monologue in 14-year-old girl was really focused and knew exactly what she wanted.
I think we
Bam.
need to attribute Forrest Gump to all this.
Thanks,
And
Forrest.
Baz Luhrmann.
And Baz
Baz.
Luhrmann.
Baz.
Yeah, good old Baz.
Good old Baz.
Good old Baz.
Which I have a name like Baz.
Me too. God, can you imagine?
Actually, let's talk about your name. You have a cool ass name, girl. Latoya. Tell me all
Thank
about that.
Well, originally
You're
it
no
was
slouch when it comes to names.
Thanks, Mom, personally, because my dad wanted to name me Irene, actually.
Irene.
Yeah,
Sounds more like a hurricane.
it's horrible, right? I mean,
Latoya's got
thinking
flair.
Latoya has
Zazz.
flair. Well, my
Gosh.
dad was overseas because he was serving, and my mom gave birth during the time, and she was like, "I'm not naming you Irene," and she named me Latoya instead.
He's not here. I'm naming you.
He's
what I
not
want.
here. I was like, "Thank you, Mom. Thank you." So that's where.
Is that a family name?
Latoya. It is not. No, I think honestly, when people make this, I'm gonna say stupid, an obvious joke of being like, "Oh, like Latoya Jackson," and I'm like, "Ah ha ha," but they're not lying.
That's
It is because of Latoya Jackson.
Yes.
All right.
Like Latoya Jackson. I hate this is a thing.
I will be honest, did not make that connection.
Thank you. You're the first. I dig that.
I don't know what that says about me, but
He's slow.
I'm slow.
No, that I'm an original.
I love it.
I love it.
So I have a quick or a segue real quick because we were
Segue.
talking about, you know, people that we know, because I went to University of Georgia and took classes with T. Anthony Murata. So I got to have him for, 2.5 years. That was amazing. And he was actually my thesis advisor. So that was fun.
Nice.
But so theater being a small world, when I was researching, I did do some research. Have you heard of a site called About the Artists?
Oh Lord, no.
Oh,
I said that
Latoya
with,
Cameron is on there.
Whoa, you don't even
About
know
the
this?
Artists. No.
No.
And at the bottom of the site, they have a little it's not really a cookie, but they have a button there where you can trace Latoya Cameron's 6 degrees of separation from current Emmy nominees.
Ooh.
What?
Yes. So I wanted to check this out. I wanted to see how accurate this was. And I'm going to mispronounce this guy's last name. I know I am. But Jim Poulos?
Pulis?
Poulos. Poulos.
Yeah.
You know him?
Yeah.
Okay. So Latoya Cameron worked with Jim who worked with Jessica Bovers, who took over for Wilson Germain Heredia, who worked with Sterling K. Brown, who is the current Emmy nominee.
Well,
and then we can trace her line to Don Cheadle.
Don Cheadle, her proud line
to Don Cheadle. So Brian Vaughn, who you've worked with, worked with a guy named Steve Pickering, who then worked with Don Cheadle.
What?
I know, all these 6 degrees of
good old Don.
And you can do it. You can trace it to Eugene Levy, Rachel Brosnan. I always pronounce her name wrong, but the lady from Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah.
And then Christina Applegate, Mahershala Ali, Alan Arkin.
I
know. You're only steps removed from these people.
So basically, I need to start making some phone calls.
Pretty soon, I think people are going to be tracing it back to how do they know you?
6 degrees of separation from Latoya
Cameron. Like how close you to Latoya Cameron.
Yeah,
that would be what a trip that would be.
I just want to talk about some of your favorite shows, and I watched that KUED interview with you, and you were talking about how a lot of these roles have educated you and taught you a lot about yourself. What are some of those roles?
Oh,
standouts for you.
Standouts.
The most important ones in your career.
That's like
why?
And why? Oh, I'm like, it always feels so blurry when you think about everything. I will say one that stands out to me immediately, Tybalt. I have to always bring it back to Romeo and Juliet because
yeah, what's your deal?
Oh, I loved playing that role. Just the power and the unapologetic, attitude and approach to things, the vulnerability too within the power, the hurt and the pain. Like I was just like, let's do it. I was excited that they wanted me to gender bend this role, which I was excited about. I think it led to a couple of other opportunities to gender bend a little bit as well. I loved my experience in Henry V, playing Rambier, being one of the only other women who I was the only woman who fought in that play.
Oh, really?
In the Battle of Agincourt. And
of course, who could forget it?
It was intense, but it was a fun experience to, do that and just feel, I guess I'm really drawn to a lot of power and strength in roles that I play. Like Aida pops out. I love playing the bag lady in Rent. That role just kind of hit me in a way, of just like how sometimes artists take advantage of certain situations that we don't understand fully to make art. But yeah, there's I'm sure there's others that are popping out. I really loved going to the schools and being a part of being a first theater experience for students, playing a dog.
You played a dog.
I played a dog.
You were a dog.
Yeah. Named Buddy. I love playing that role. And also another one, Different Equals Amazing, about bullying, which was super, super important
about
to
that.
me.
Yeah.
Were you a bully or the bullied?
I was kind of both. We got to play, it was me and another actor. We played several different roles and different scenarios of being bullied and being the bullier person or the bully, and then also being somebody who is not really participating in being bullying other people or whatever, watching it happen and not really doing anything about it as well, which I think is a bystanders. Yeah. So, which was important to kind of open up the dialogue for young students to vocalize if they were being bullied and how teachers can handle it. And also other students, hopefully being empathetic to those who are being bullied and also the bullier, because we also don't understand what's happening all the time and why those why they are bullying other students, because a lot of stuff could be happening at home.
Oh,
So
totally.
Absolutely.
it opened up
Hurt
all
people,
of that.
the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I enjoyed those experiences that cause dialogue and conversation to happen as well. So people hopefully will learn something and be better, because that's what I love to do in my work. It teaches me to be that way. So I hope that's something that I'm giving out when I'm in those roles too.
Yeah, you talked about that, playing roles that you don't fully understand or don't maybe have a full firsthand experience with, as you're talking about your role in Rent. How do you usually tackle those roles?
I just go for it, honestly, and ask questions, because I'm like, if I don't know the answer, and also giving myself permission to not know the answer as well, because at the end of the day, I get to portray this character, but I get to take that role and leave it at this theater and go home to my own life. So, what am I in my own personal life going to do with what I've learned with playing this character? How can I be more empathetic to other people? Because my perspective has been widened because of playing this character. So I keep asking questions and give myself permission to not always get the answers that I desire to have. I'll search for it, but sometimes it just doesn't. It won't. There's not an answer. There's not
I
a
think
button.
that's the biggest skill that actors can have is the ability to ask questions. And I think at the end of the day, actors are empathy athletes.
Yeah.
They are athletes of empathy. Because if you can't understand a character, how can you play a character? Even if it's someone not even related to you.
Exactly.
Shares no attributes that you have whatsoever. Can you empathize with what it would be like to be them? You have to be the athlete of empathy to be a good actor.
And it's interesting because, like, what popped out when you said that too, like, I played Miss Evers in Miss Evers Boys.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And that is a tour de force role to play. And, it's based on true events that happened in Tuskegee.
And tell me about it. What's the play?
So it's about when the government goes into Tuskegee, when before penicillin was discovered to help with syphilis. They do find out that penicillin actually does help syphilis. Like, I don't remember if it was to cure it, right? Or
yeah, I think it does. It
does,
antibiotics,
right?
Yeah.
So, but they pretended they made Miss Evers, who is actually a real character, but a different name, try to convince the guys to not get penicillin, that it was actually bad for them, to continue to experiment on them to see what the full effects of syphilis would do to bodies.
Remember this shit.
Yeah.
Wait. This was she was a who was she?
She was a nurse.
She was a nurse. And so she broke the Hippocratic oath, right? Do no harm.
Yeah. Because the government asked her to, because she thought that she also was being manipulated by them to saying like it's going to help the world and
she was a black woman.
She was a black woman, yes.
Yeah.
And she did this to her own kind.
Yes, but understand at the same time that manipulation was happening to her too.
Wow, a fascinating show. What is this called?
Miss Evers Boys. It's a great. It's a hard read, and I almost did not do that show because it made me feel so ill because I did not know. The Grand Theater in Salt Lake. Yeah, wow. I think it was like 2012, I believe. It was 2011 or 2012, one of the 2 years. But that role taught me how to also be empathetic to roles that I might actually not like people that I don't like. And
that's where you learn the most, though.
Yeah, that's exactly where you learn. And you have to portray, at least what I had to realize and teach myself is like, if I'm going to portray a role that I necessarily as myself disagree with, I can't judge them. I can't judge the character or else I can't play it. If you're going in there judging the character, how can you fully allow the character to come through?
And
right.
I think to judge, very judgmental people, to me, lack imagination. Because to judge means that you cannot picture the situation where you would do the same thing.
Right.
And to me, that
Right.
shows a lack of imagination.
Hmm.
And also, I think actors have to be imaginative. So,
Yes.
What?
I
I've never used my
sort of.
imagination in my work.
no empathy or
Child
imagination
gaze.
for John
No.
here. Okay, so that's one of the darker roles. What's some of your favorite roles? So what's your number one? I would say of all time.
Ooh, of all time?
You need to choose. You have 10 seconds. You're on the clock.
Shoot. Do cue
Sick
the
person.
music. I really love playing Yitzhak and Hedwig.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that sounds fun.
Tell me about it.
I loved working in that whole play. I loved the message that it brought out. I loved the music. I loved once again another kind of like gender bend kind of role. It just felt like a role that I never was going to be able to play because it was originally cast as white, and there was two BIPOC artists playing these two lead roles, and so.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was like huge for me. And then I just sorry, I guess I shouldn't swear,
No,
but
Fucking.
but I got to like rock, I love rock music. I love singing that style. So, I just enjoyed myself. I think it was like the most fun I had, and we only had like 2-week rehearsal process too to put it up. Yeah.
Wow.
That's-
Where
So it
was
was like a
this?
blink. It was through Plan B Theater Company.
Wow.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
That's
For
insane.
2
musical.
weeks.
Jerry
Yeah.
Rapier, you're mad.
Craziest
We had
son
to
of a
come
bitch.
prepared. We were
Wow.
prepared to work, so it was a
Yeah.
blast. It was a
So
blast.
for those of you wondering what we're getting at, so we're talking about all these local thriving theater companies here in Salt Lake City, Utah. There's Plan B, there's Salt Lake Acting Company, there's a Grand Theater, and you've worked for all of them. You've been all around, but you've done the New York thing?
I have, yeah, once.
Tell me about the New York thing.
I didn't live there. I can't say that. I can't
Whoa,
claim that.
the purists
I
will
know.
say you haven't done
I
the New
know. I
York thing.
haven't. I haven't had the.
Well, hold on though. You did a show there, which means you lived there during the duration of a show.
I did. I was there for like what I think 2-3 weeks. So
You've lived there. You've lived there.
That's
Is that live?
You lived there. If it's 2-3 days, fuck that. You didn't live there, but you lived there for 2-3
As
weeks.
someone that lived there for 2.5 years, you lived there.
Okay. Well, then now I'm going to claim that and be like,
What was
I
that
lived
show?
in New York.
So was that Broadway, off Broadway?
It was off Broadway. It was the New
Triple
York
off.
Musical Theater Festival that I don't think they exist anymore as of like last year or 2 years ago.
Oh,
They
no.
stopped doing it, but it was for new musicals that were in development process. And honestly, my friend who was in Rent with me told me about this festival, and I was just like, oh, he's like, you should keep an eye out for that.
Was this where was Rent when you did it?
It was at Pioneer Theater
I
Company.
saw that one.
You did.
And I mean, that
did
means I
see
saw
that
you
one.
as well. I saw it.
Oh,
Yes.
dude, that
Look
was
at
me being a bag lady.
Typecast again.
Should start claiming that, but
Bag lady.
the bag lady. But they, funny enough, that musical was actually developed in Utah, and I didn't know that was like.
What? Rent?
No, the one that
I'm like,
she-
what?
The one that
I
she
should
did that
reiterate.
in New York.
The one in New York. It was called Shelter, the musical. And it was developed here in Utah. And I think on a whim, the creators were like, let's just send it off to New York and see if like this festival will take it, but
See if it
not
can
thinking.
swim.
And they were like, yeah, we want you to come and participate. And they were like, wait, what? So
We're not
there was
prepared
like,
for this.
no disrespect to them, but they weren't, because I think they're just like, holy cow, like, what do we do now? And so I guess we're going to have auditions for this and see what's going to happen. So I went and auditioned for it and didn't think that I was going to. I felt good about what I brought to the table. I just was like, oh, there's no way they're going to cast me as the lead, because not during those times, which is not now. They, most Black people don't get cast in lead roles too, so.
Is that right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No
It's still the big, like one of the, oh yeah. There's no equitable opportunities for Black or BIPOC artists. Yeah.
Do you feel the discrimination in the room, or do you feel diminished chances at certain auditions just because of your race?
I mean, absolutely, because that's just the facts,
Yeah.
And but I still show up because I'm like, I'm gonna make you see me
Hell yeah.
and what
Yeah.
I got. And if I don't get it because of your lack of imagination,
Yes. Yes.
then so be it. Then I'll go somewhere else. But I still, it's something I've realized within the last year, like any spaces that I show up to, despite what is happening in the theater and how discriminatory they are,
Wow.
that the theater is, showing up to those spaces still is
Good for
revolutionary.
you.
So I'm going to still do
Going
it.
to toe to toe and just saying, here I am.
Any way that I can put a dent in something, then I'll
Do you
do it.
think? Do you think a lot of it are? How much of it is just blatant bias, and how much of it you think is implicit? Like you said, lack of imagination.
I think
Like it's got to be a white girl. We all know this in our heads, so we're not going to. Or like, oh, I've never thought of, playing with the huh.
I mean, I've witnessed both at the same
Okay.
like moment of like walking in a room and doing it and them going like making that face like, oh, I didn't think that could be possible.
Right.
Like
There's like non-white people in Utah.
what? Right? Or like
Holy
I never
shit.
saw that because the role, like, the breakdown doesn't say that it has any specific, reasons for this role to
Absolutely.
be cast as a non-white, person because it's not
Non-white.
about
How
that.
general. Non-white.
Um,
Not Caucasoid. Jesus. Let me ask you what you think about this term. It's called Utah Black, and it's this notion in acting where if you need to cast a certain ethnicity in a role, be that Black, Mexican, Native American, that since often the pool in Utah lacks diversity or certain ethnicities with that caliber of training, they cast the close enough version. For example, I have one of my good buddies, his name's Sila, and he's Samoan. He's a powerful Samoan actor. And this guy gets cast as more Mexicans and Native Americans than you've ever seen because it's close enough. And there's a whole phrase behind this notion. It's called Utah Black, or parenthetical, Black enough. Have you seen that? Have you run across that? Or
absolutely.
Like, well, you're meant to be East Indian and you're the closest thing we got. So you're going to be Gandhi's wife in the play Gandhi, a musical, sort of thing. Have you run into that?
Absolutely. I see it all the time. And unfortunately, like for lack, and I will reiterate this always, is like it's not the lack of diversity, it's a lack of looking for it and actually generally going to like actually connect with our community and with people who are not white, like in Utah. We are here, we've always been here. It's the lack of work that the theaters and other companies aren't doing because they don't want to do it because of whatever excuse they want to put on the table. But I will always say, I'm like, no, we've been here. It's you not doing the work. So, but of course I've seen that. Like, I mean, I was in Ragtime and like we didn't have a full Black cast for the Harlem section, and yeah,
it was there.
It was like it was Black people, Latinas, Polynesians, and which is like I want to amplify like how important it is to once again have the imagination to cast outside of your bias, here in Utah,
Nice.
because we don't see enough Asian representation, Pacific Islander representation. We don't see enough Latin Mexican. Like we need indigenous. Like we need all of that. We're all here, so do it. There's no excuses. And also, like I've talked about this many times because I think it is important to talk about. Like I've participated in that systemic racism bullshit too as an artist. Oh yeah,
tell me.
We all have, because being Utah, whatever ethnicity to cover up that our lack of work at the theater. I was in the Heights. Now I'm not saying that I can see myself in the Heights, but not in the role that I was in. So I should have never played Daniela in the Heights because that's not my culture. That's not
Is she
I'm not.
Latina?
Yeah, she's Puerto
Right.
Rican.
Right. I remember that.
So, and I'm not Puerto Rican. I'm a Black woman. So, it's stuff like that
Wow.
where like I also will call out to my own culture of being like I get it. We need the work, we need the jobs as well because they're lacking. And also it's like you realize how you are participating in those behaviors too.
Right.
And that also I call upon myself to like take that stuff off my resume whenever I showed up in spaces
Really?
that, oh,
Really?
absolutely.
Wow.
That's
That's
like,
amazing.
that's what I think is important because that's
Holy
not the
shit.
space that I shouldn't have taken that
So
opportunity away from
are
that.
you, what adjective would you place on that? Are you embarrassed? Are you ashamed? Are you uncomfortable with that?
No, I'm not ashamed or embarrassed or uncomfortable. I feel like it's my responsibility and my,
Responsible. You feel responsible to not
yeah,
place that on your resume.
exactly. Like
Wow.
not it's not my role. It never was my role. So take it off your resume.
You know, I can't say I have a similar story because that whole thing of when's the white American male gonna ever catch a break, right? Said no one ever. But
I say it all the time.
one time he says all the time.
All the time.
I said, John, you can't say that. But one
Damn
time
you, it's America.
I went to an audition for Pioneer Theater, one of the largest regional theaters we have here in Utah, and it was for one of my favorite plays, A Raisin in the Sun.
I
And
love that
here
play.
is where the ratio is finally inverted, where there was only one role for a white boy.
Mm-hmm.
It's about for all you who don't know the play Raising the Sun, it's about a black Chicago family, like in the 50s, post World War II. They're living cheek and jowl in a little apartment, one bathroom. They're miserable. They have an opportunity to move to a more affluent neighborhood in Chicago, a bigger house. They come into some inheritance money. Only one catch: the affluent neighborhood back then, and even now, is white. And the only character, the only white boy who shows up in that whole fucking play is this sort of real estate broker who knocks on the door, and he's all sweet and pleasant as pie, but he's there to say,
Carl? Is that his name? What's his
I don't
name?
remember, but he's pleasant as pie, and he's there to say, to offer them a settlement to not move into the white neighborhood because, you won't fit in. And
Right.
I remember it was a wonderful experience in that I found myself the only person representing my race in the room, right? In Utah. There I am waiting, and it was with a bunch of black people. And I'm like, oh my God, this is great. And the black director, black host, everything. And I remember the director got up there and read it with me. It's the only director who's ever read an audition with me. And I come in with all this racist shit and, do that whole bit.
Yeah.
I gave my all, man. And talking about imagination and trying to empathize with the character you don't understand. It's like, okay, well, I got to be racist. And I really got to sell this because I want this role. Punchline, I didn't get the role. I was very young at the time. Actually, this audition is easily, a decade ago, whenever they had Raising the Sun, 8 to 10 years ago at Pioneer, they did it. But I wish I had that experience more. And they're doing more shows like that. Yeah. They did Fences. I love Fences. They did Raising the Sun way back when. But it's always catering to, the white nation, man. Fucking white Christmas. White, everything's fucking white.
Yeah.
And so but it was an interesting experience to finally be the one where I was the minority. And that's, right. I think that's rare. And I don't think, frankly, white people experience that enough.
That's interesting because you bring up White Christmas and whatnot, and I know that. And I
have a play of words, but it's like fucking in New Hampshire. It's all fucking white people.
It just reminded me because I think Pioneer's done it twice now. Is Christmas at Pemberley?
Oh, the whole Pride and Prejudice Christmas
deal? Yeah. Oh, I haven't even seen it.
I haven't seen it either. So I was just wondering. I mean, I haven't seen it. I saw it in Atlanta.
I auditioned for it.
And I was just wondering if they cross cast here in Salt Lake because they did in Atlanta. It was a very diverse cast. So I was just wondering if they had done that here.
Nice. Well, they did Lion in Winter. And,
yes.
And the lead, remember that?
Uh-huh.
and the king
Yes.
was black. I loved that.
Yeah.
That
And I
was
think
fantastic.
there was
And
like a couple. Yeah.
Jeffrey was black.
Yes.
I was like, oh hell yeah. It
Hmm.
was really good.
And they seem to have been doing that more. I mean, here in Salt Lake.
Yeah,
Anyway,
they did
than
that Pioneer, and I was
because
like,
they did.
hey,
What was
all
it?
right.
Mary Queen of Scots? Is that or
Yeah, Mary Queen of
Yeah,
Scots had it was a variety of different representation, and then also I mean, they almost went there. I mean, it was beautiful to see. Once, if you saw once,
Oh yeah, yeah.
the
At Pioneer.
guy at Pioneer, the
Yeah, yeah, I
guy
did.
who played Guy was a black actor, which was amazing to see because I saw it on Broadway and I was like, oh, I would love to play the girl, but they're never going to cast a black girl as girl. And now when I saw him, I was like, oh, well, then maybe I need to learn the piano.
well, and that's. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
That leads me to one question because you have worked in a lot in the West. You've worked in Denver. You've worked at the Utah Shakespeare Festival. You worked here in Salt Lake. And having I worked in Atlanta for a little bit, but I went to grad school in Athens, not far from Atlanta, so I was lucky enough to kind of be in that market for a little while. They do a lot of cross casting,
Mm.
and I was just wondering, has that changed? Is that changing here in the West? Do you see that happening?
I mean, I always I always look at things from a slant look of what are you gonna do? Because I've noticed it, but the consistency afterward is what I'm interested in more
Ooh,
so.
talk about that.
I mean, we've seen it countless times that there's a season that's like, we're focusing on diversity because then they put in, Big River or Ragtime or like one of those like horrible, horrible. I mean, the musicals are beautiful, but like the storyline that draws in the diversity shouldn't be the thing, that
Right.
you want to make your season more inclusive. So, I remember having a discussion about this with somebody at their opening weekend. And it was like a diverse cast or a diverse company and they're like, isn't this so great? And I was like, sure, but I feel like this is possibly going to be one of those like check mark opportunities for a theater
Mm,
company to do.
check the box. Yeah.
Check the box, pull a Hamilton is cool right now. So let's pull a Hamilton so we can make some money. And then the
Ooh,
next season, we're going to
Mm.
go back to the
interesting.
same old
We'll go right
programming.
back to casting Othello as a white guy.
Exactly. So, and the looks that I got from people, it was very interesting because they were like, how dare you say it like, and I was just like,
We're not here just to check a box.
Oh, I'm
and I was
sorry. Did I
like,
tap into your white fragility?
right? It was so interesting. I was just like, just wait. Like, I'm like, I'll be surprised if it doesn't, but I guarantee
Mm.
it will because it happens all the time. I'm not saying this out of my ass just for the sake of saying it. I'm saying it because it happens all the time. And what happened? The same old programming happened the next season. It
Oh,
did not diverse. It was not a diverse season. And it has consistently been the same. So I'm like sitting there going, see. So do I think it's changing? I think the attempt is more of a political statement because of what's happening now. I think it's also
Mhm.
a money situation where they're trying to profit off of what's happening.
interesting.
And I'm interested to see what's going to happen actually moving forward because that really will tell me the spaces and places that I want to support
Sure.
moving forward,
This
So
Have you
reminds me.
noticed? Let me just ask one
Please.
thing. Have you noticed? Because working at the different theaters, are different audiences more receptive to the change?
I don't know because I don't think the audiences have been pushed to do that work yet.
Okay.
I think that it's
Not
still
giving a
like,
poll.
yeah, I mean, well, because like the same stuff is happening. So, like, I'll tell you my experience. I went and saw Big River at the
Uh-huh.
Utah Shakespeare Festival. Beautifully done. Um, and I mean, and I couldn't spot any other people of color in the audience. It was a bunch of white people. And I was sitting next to this really lovely woman. She was white. And anytime that Jim sang, she like looked at me like, "Oh my goodness, do you hear how beautiful he's singing?" I'm like, "Sure do." And
Oh
anything
God.
that was happening to him, she would like check in with me of like, "Do you see what's happening?" I'm like, "I am." And she
I'm
was
here
at
in the
the,
audience. I'm
I'm
watching.
like,
Came to see the play.
"Yes, this is," and I know that she's going through her own experience and everything like that. But then at the end of the play, she's like weeping, like ugly weeping, and she's looking at me and she's like, "Oh, that was so," and I was like, "Yep." And I'm not affected by it because I was just like, this isn't new to me. Um, and my question was like, now what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with how you feel?
It's like a
No
challenge.
one does anything, unfortunately, because like as much as I believe still in theater, I do believe that there is this separation that happens when, because it's like this is entertainment still. This is like a separation of like why it's being told, because the same stuff happens when they leave the theater. They'll go and talk about it like it was an experience versus what's actually happening
What that's
in the
real.
world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how do you make that happen? How do you make it a visceral experience where it activates people to do something about it
Yeah.
versus just to feel it in the moment? And then I felt what I felt in the theater, and now
Or
I can go
and
back
now
to
I've
my
done
nice
my
home.
job.
Exact. I
My
did my
job was to
job.
I've
feel
done my
it.
part.
I got the
Right.
message. Yeah, my work here is done.
Right. But are you showing up to like the Black Lives Matter protests? Are you speaking up in behalf of
Right.
stopping Asian hate? Are you doing anything to talk about preserving sacred lands for Indigenous people? What are you doing
What are you
about
doing?
what are you doing
Or
about
are
it
you just
now?
feeling things?
Because
It
feelings
reminds
don't
me
do
how
anything.
the barometer for our society and art right now is, remember the Oscars where it was the scandalous, the no black Oscars, where not a single black nominee, like
Yeah.
not a single director, actor, woman, nothing. And there was outrage, and like Will Smith was going to boycott the Oscars, refuse to show up. And so they scrambled, the Academy scrambled, and they got every single black entertainer to like runway, red carpet host, Chris Rock hosted. It ultimately became like the joke became like the blackest Oscars ever, but still not a single black nominee that year. No, but all white land.
Yeah. Presentation.
Clint Eastwood, this,
Presentational.
Martin Scorsese, that, no
Yeah.
Denzel, no Spike Lee, no nothing. Nobody.
Yeah.
It was wild. It was wild.
It's
So speaking of Black Lives Matter, what's up? Holy shit. So where have you been in all this? Have you been at the protests here in Salt Lake or here in Utah? What's been going on?
I've been to a few. My activism has been what I can do with what I have been doing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, the arts have always been the spaces that I felt more um, able to be myself, but also realizing in those spaces that's not 100% true. But it's like the closest from being by myself. Um, and so with the influences that I have with the acting that I've done in my community, I've taken a step kind of like off the stage as well to see what I can do behind the scenes. I'm working now at the Salt Lake Acting Company as their EDI dramaturg, which is Equity, Diversity,
Oh,
Inclusion.
that's where you work. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I started that position in January. It's something that I've been in talks with. I approached them about wanting to be a part of that kind of work because I think um, pushing our audiences here in Utah is so pivotal and important
Yes.
that we need to represent stories, people who are telling them, people who are in powerful positions, uplifting and providing a space of support for that to happen. That I feel like I can bring that into
Talk about
that.
that job a little bit. What exactly are the responsibilities of that
A
job?
dramaturg. First of all, define what a dramaturg is for everyone.
How do you define dramaturg? They're the ones who dive into everything. So in the theater, at least for like, they're very important for play development and also for drama, not for drama, for drama, for
Drama.
directors.
You're really
so
bringing
like,
a lot of drama, Latoya.
I
That's
bring
a
a lot of
problem.
dramaturg.
So you're the research behind a play.
Yeah, you're like the deep researcher,
You give packets
and
to the actors on the history
yes,
of like
yeah.
the time frame they're enacting and all sorts of stuff.
Yes. Now, when you flip it with EDI, dramaturg, you dive into the infrastructure of a theater company. And like that means in every place that I can get my hands into and start looking how they function, how they thrive, how they're putting out information into the world, who they're partnering with, all these things to see where we can start actually doing stronger and better and sustainable work, because this kind of work isn't going to be I got the answers once again, like here's the answers to the problems. It's not. There's never going to be a solid answer. There's going to be just continuous work to make things better. You know, if that makes sense, because our society evolves and it will continue to evolve. Terms are going to be outdated and we're going to be starting to use new ones, like all the things.
Finished, yeah.
It's never finished. So that's what that work is going to entail. And it's like also holding accountable for the theater to call them out and be like, if you're going to do this, like, are you sure you want to do that? Because this is what could possibly open up.
Damage control too, huh?
Only because I'm that person.
Troubleshooting.
I'm like, if you're going to communicate with this person when they're actually already showing signs of being derogatory towards then are you sure you want to be partnering with them?
Wow.
And then it's like them being like, oh, yeah, you know, because it's funny because I think like humans know better. It's just sometimes we get in our own way. Actually, all the time we get in our own way to do the work because we're so afraid.
His own way all the time.
I do too.
Yeah.
So
I'm my own greatest obstacle.
Right. And so, I mean, if you intentionally and consciously are trying to go in there with the efforts of wanting to make something better, you will do better, you know.
So
hopefully.
Yeah. So how bad do you miss acting? I mean, you got to miss it like crazy. I mean,
I do miss it.
What was the last show you were in? What was that?
I was about to open For Women, talking about the man under the sheet at Salt Lake Acting Company. And
that's right.
We were literally, it was about, oh God, I think we're opening the next day. And I got a call that was like, hey, we're thinking about postponing the show. And I said, okay, that's probably smart. And then she said again, actually, we are. And I said, okay.
In the same breath, maybe, no, it's a definite.
Maybe, no, it's definitely happening. And then I was like, okay. And then we had a meeting where we're like, well, maybe we'll come back together in the summertime. How's everyone's summers looking? And so we're like, okay, great. We'll come back in the summer. And I remember in the springtime being like,
it won't.
I don't think there's going to be a summer. I don't even think it's going to be in this year. I think
we're
going to have to.
Nuclear winter right now. My God.
Yeah.
Pretty
hard. So I miss it. I do miss it. And I also, I mean, this whole experience has really just like skyrocketed everything. Everything is messy, and there's a lot of cleanup and rebuilding that we need to do. Mm-hmm. So I look forward to going back to the theater, and also I am hesitant sometimes to go back to it because of the work that needs to happen that isn't happening yet. I think that, I mean, I can't say if 100% because I do think that there are theater companies that are diving into doing the work.
The work we've been talking about.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't be at Salt Lake Acting Company if they weren't already doing that kind of work before I started.
Yeah.
And like other theater companies have shown that, but not enough. And especially the theater companies that are the most powerful in our community. I am watching them like a hawk just to see what they're going to be doing, because why would you want to be why would you want to put yourself in spaces that continuously tell you that you're not welcome? Sure. So, there's a few of us who will have the strength to continue to do that, to push that movement. And then there are those who are going to be like, fuck that, I'm not doing that shit anymore. Yeah. And I can't fault that either.
Yeah.
So because of the abuse that happens in theater, and no one talks about it enough.
Do you think that and I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember the name of the actual letter, but the letter that was put out by the BIPOC artists, do you think that hit a lot of the I guess a lot of the issues that are happening? Do you
I,
think they?
yeah, I think so. But I think it also probably opened up a deeper evaluation for
Mhm.
that theater now with them being shown themselves. What are you going to do about it? Because it's
Yeah.
funny how when you mirror back what people are doing, they either they'll call to action or they will try to like hide themselves again.
Mhm.
And I'm curious of, I feel like that's possibly what could be happening. So if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No.
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's that idea of, is it a revolution or a movement? And movements, go from one place to another and stop. Revolutions keep coming back around in the face. So
Yeah.
is it going to be a revolution or just a movement?
Right.
And I think what you said is some powerful stuff as far as, and why as a theater wouldn't you want to be spearheading it as
Right.
opposed to the
Not going
caboose?
along, but actually
Yeah.
breaking
Doing.
mold.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I said this actually yesterday. I was talking to somebody, and I guess I'll get a little political, but like, we all were feeding the American dream. Like we were eating that American dream breakfast every day of like, if I can dream it, I can do it, I can be it, whatever.
Hmm.
And then we all realized that, that wasn't true. We were not being told the truth. And I feel like the theater has done the same, unfortunately. They've
Yeah.
been serving up like we are a safe space to come bring all your weird, your quirks, your strange, bring your vulnerability, like expose yourself, bleed yourself to death for us because we will
Hmm.
accept you and heal you. When actually it has been a lie. It hasn't been the truth. It's been very damaging. They expect you to just be so willing to basically bend any direction and expose all the things about yourself for the sake of the art. And then what's given back to you is continuous abuse, doors being shut on you, um, taking you away from your actual strength and self so they can continue to serve you that non-nutritional breakfast that you keep eating,
Empty calories.
and decalories, so like
Those are your Lucky
I'm not.
Charms, but they're good for you.
Yeah, I mean, I love a marshmallow, but then you realize that like you're losing teeth and you're gaining weight. Like it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's something that I've had to grapple with in the last couple of years of being like, holy shit, like have I been in like a relationship with theater that's been more damaging than uplifting? And it's still something I'm still trying to dive into to see because I do know as I've spoken that there have been some really beautiful uplifting experiences that also match with some of the horrific experiences I've had in spaces that I thought that I was safe in. So, and I know I'm not the only one. And
Yeah.
so the theater has a lot of grappling that it does also need to face with that, a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. So, I don't know.
You said she was brilliant, but I wasn't anticipating
You're welcome.
this.
Who?
Man.
No, everything you said has just been, and it's brilliant, but eye-opening too. I mean, it's always great to get, firsthand experience or firsthand knowledge from someone, or knowledge from someone who has the firsthand experience. But, part of what we like talking about too is, and we get, we've been fortunate enough to have guests from all over the place, but to get someone that's so intimately involved with the Salt Lake area and, even Utah itself, having worked at the Utah Shakespeare Festival and then all these theaters in town, to see how, your experience has been and how it was, is it changing, where is it going, and to just basically say I don't know. And that's really, I can see why that would be disheartening and scary, but still holding on to that sliver of hope.
Mm-hmm.
That
I also like your other message of, you sure be moved, but what are you going to do? That ultimate challenge you give to an audience. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You feel it. What do you do with those feelings?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, and I always wondered, and this was because I always talked about it in terms of, gosh, should I name the theater?
Do it.
All right, whatever.
No
like
holds barred.
they're ever gonna hire me anyway.
No holds barred here.
But I always thought about it in terms of Pioneer.
Oh, that ship
I
sailed long
know.
ago for you, but
Right, exactly.
No, just,
No, it really did.
I'm just kidding. No.
I got to get back in with Jerry Rapier at Plan B. But no, I just always thought, back in the day, listening, in the 70s, 80s, especially listening to some of the people that worked there during that time talk about the blue hairs, and that's who their subscribers were and how they had to
the blue hairs,
baby.
Wow, just like old ladies with blue hair.
Yeah, basically.
Wow.
I mean, that's who the subscriber base was. Just these older people
who want white Christmas, who want
white Christmas,
who want nostalgia,
exactly.
who want less black people.
It's all Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can we get less black people in the next season, please?
I applaud your diversity, but
too diverse.
We saw Raising a Son 3 years ago. Do we really need to do another black play?
Oddly enough, it would probably be the opposite. It would be like, actually, why did you cast them? What was it? My favorite thing that did happen at Pioneer in Elf. Why was the mother a black woman? And why was there a lot of black people in that show? Didn't you see the original cast? The only black person in that show was the manager at Macy's, but everyone else should have been white. Oh, yeah. And they completely said, I do really enjoy Alicia Washington's work, but they're referring to me. It was in that show. Alicia and I talked about it. Elf? Yeah, I was an elf, yeah.
Were you the wife?
No, I wasn't the wife, but I played Chadwick.
I saw that, but that's forever. That was
forever ago. But they were like, "Oh, how dare you!" And I was like, "Boo boo, this is set in New York City, one, so it should definitely be more diverse than white people." So Broadway did it wrong, and then two, what the hell? That's what you got, Elf? I'm like, you're supposed to go in and have a good time. You're pissed off about that? I'm like, oh my God, it's a fucking play. For hell's sake. It's
a movie that's become a play.
A play, right. It's like, we're here to have fun. No one here is trying to take life so deep right now. It's Elf.
Yeah.
For hell's sake.
For Christ's sake.
It's not a documentary.
Right. So
you took Elf, something pure and sacred, and you shit all over it.
Oh my God. Oh, you would have loved. We did. So Murata, I was lucky enough to be in his animal farm.
This is your professor at
this
University
is
of Georgia.
Professor T. Anthony Murata. And we did Animal Farm. And
George
we had
Orwell.
people because we did a whole play. I was Napoleon, and we did this whole thing on Hillary Clinton, on Trump, and we had these real conservative people come in and basically say, how could you take the sacred text of Wells and turn it into this, of Orwell, and turn it into this monstrosity. And one guy just said, when did George Orwell become the sacred text that nobody can mess around with?
This is the fucking Bible for all workers.
Right? Oh my gosh. You I
so
love
to hear him
humans.
do it with Elf.
Don't you mess with don't
funnier.
change Elf.
Elf.
Do it.
Will Ferrell and all his artistic triumph.
It's Bob Newhart or it's nothing.
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine if that Elf was cast as other than white? That probably would have, the theater would never exist anywhere.
There are no black elves and
no black people in North Pole.
There's no elves can't be any other than white. What are you talking about? They're elves.
Elves are Scandinavian. Elves. We all know it.
Oh my gosh.
They're Scandinavian elves.
I just remember that going back to remember when Megyn Kelly was on Fox, and she assured, because there was a black Santa at one of the stores in New York, and she got on her broadcast and assured all the children out there that Santa Claus was white.
No.
She had to assure them.
No. Are you fucking kidding me?
No. So I can just see it. You got these audiences here that, how many of them are Fox News watchers, and they just have to be assured that Bob Newhart's character is white.
It's like, what?
Santa is a white
Don't worry,
man.
kids. Santa is white.
God.
It was. Oh,
and
you gotta look it
Jesus
up.
has blonde hair and blue eyes like Jeffrey
Yeah,
Hunter, King
yeah,
of Kings.
exactly.
Oh my
Now,
gosh.
Jesus
Or
is more
Luke
like Osama bin
Skywalker was.
Laden, let me tell you something.
Or what was it? What's his bucket? Not Luke Skywalker. Obi-Wan Kenobi. What they
Alec
keep.
Guinness?
Well, no.
McGregor?
Ewan McGregor, when that picture of him like came out with like the long hair, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's Jesus." It's like, "Oh no, dude, no, that's Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan Kenobi." But yes, Jesus.
But yes, he's about as white as they come.
Jesus was Israeli. What do Israeli people look like?
Oh man,
Jesus.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's real. It's real.
It's real, man. It's very real.
But so, I guess going back to the idea of audiences and donors and whatnot. So Slack seems to be pretty responsible, or are very choosy with their donors, or do they really watch who they partner with? And
I think that they do. I'm still learning a lot about who their donors are and partners and stuff like that. But I know with the work that Cynthia has been doing and everyone at like the board and the staff have been doing, we're asking those important questions,
nice.
of like, get on board,
That's
man.
gotta be tough. I mean, because you don't want to shut down a pipeline of money just because you might not agree with them
Right.
politically. But at the same time, you want to be, you want to get your message out there. You want to be your, a beacon, or like we were
Right.
saying, you want to spearhead things. You don't want to be the caboose and be dragged
Exactly.
Don't be the caboose.
What? Don't be the caboose.
Don't be a caboose.
Nobody likes a caboose.
Nobody likes the caboose.
What? There is a theater company that like it's Trinity Rep, I believe it was, right? That there was like one of their donors reached out to White Theater, Dear White Theater, that group, saying like, you guys are the problem, and all these like really horrible, disrespectful things about like, we have the money, we're not going to support you guys, and da 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 da. Then Trinity Rep found out that this person, her name was Connie. They recognized the email, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is actually one of the people who donates to our theater company and also put us in their will. So when she passes out, the money would go into.
So there was more money to come.
Yes. And they were like, don't you worry. Like they reached out to Connie and was like, our theater company is anti-racist, anti-racism. This is our stance, and we take it seriously. Please take us out of your will, and we will no longer be taking donations from you moving forward.
We don't want your money.
Wow.
We don't want your money. Now that is like real work.
That's standing
like
up.
Real. That's fucking unreal. Like I literally sat there, was like, my mouth was wide open because I never thought I would see that. And I was like, holy shit.
That's money.
That's true money.
That's what makes the world go round. And they're saying, like, fuck it and fuck your money.
Yeah, we don't need you. Like
that's drawing a line in the sand.
Exactly. And that's what needs to happen. If you are saying that you are a anti-racist, anti-racism workspace, institution, theater, then you better check who you are working with, because if they aren't a part of that movement, a part of inclusivity and equity, also accessibility, all of that, if they are not a part of that, they don't want to be a part of that, then you should really get rid of that.
Then they're dinosaurs. Then they're going to go extinct, just like the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
It's you always see there's movies and TV shows out there about, large corporations that own news networks, mm-hmm. and how the news will be influenced by that corporate entity. And so at the same time, if you're doing, if you're a theater company and you're accepting money from someone, at one point in time, do you want to put up a show, or do you want to say something in your mission? And then this entity comes along and says, no, we don't support that. Are you going to be influenced by that? Are you not going to do something because you're looking for money? So I think if you're going to be that spearhead,
Mhm.
if you're going to have that mission, you got to cut it off right then and there.
Absolutely.
You
Because what's
can't
going
wait
to
for it to come to a head.
Right. And plus, like when and if that happens, like how many other people are going to come in and support you? Way more
Yeah.
people are going to come in and be like, oh no, we want this to happen. And thank you for like saying fuck you to that person.
We stand
And
with
we're here to
you.
stand with you. Exactly.
Yeah.
So there are a lot more people who are wanting that to happen versus this really small amount of people that yeah, they have the money right now, but watch how many people can come together to make up that
Yeah.
money and then some, so there's so much untapped resources out there because people are so afraid to do it. And it's something I said yesterday too. I was just like, when I was talking to a friend, I said, what was it? I was like, they brought up the point of like, people are afraid of change. And I was like, yes, I don't disagree with that. I also will say too that there are people out there who are saying that they are afraid of change, but they aren't afraid of change. They're actually more afraid of losing something that has been serving them. So like it affects them in a way that like the system has been working for people for a long, long, long time. So why would you fight against a system that has been working for you? You won't. You don't want to because then you lose something because you've been benefiting off of it.
Well,
so now
slavery worked, apartheid
Right?
worked,
I
a lot of
mean,
things worked.
Jim Crow worked.
Jim Crow
But then-
worked. Exactly.
exactly. And so like,
Why change it? I like this.
right. It's like, why? But like the outcome, obviously, it's the obvious thing, which I don't understand why people make it seem so obvious, but that no one in the long run, no one benefits off of it anyway, because if we're willing to sacrifice people that we think are not deemed as valued as ourselves, then we also are going to be put into that food chain as well. It's going to come back to you eventually. It always does,
Well, and it's so funny how a lot of this is so, I mean, it really is learned. I grew up in the South and I learned to, I don't even want to say appreciate, but I grew up with the Civil War monuments, the Confederate monuments, and they were just kind of part of the lifestyle there. But then talking to my friends, that would walk by, my black friends that would walk by these things, and they'd have to just kind of ignore them or ignore what they stood for. And it's, as a kid, it was just there, and it took me forever to go, oh, wait a second, what does this represent?
This is like pro-slavery.
Why is this here?
At its heart, it's
then
pro-slavery monuments.
And
like,
then people,
fuck, we lost. That sucks. Wish it was still the same.
But people make it sound like they stood since the end of the Civil War. A lot of these monuments weren't erected until the early 1900s,
or some are probably the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Doug.
I mean, they're not that old, and
that shit was
to
probably,
take them down is not a big deal, really.
That shot was probably going
it's
up.
just something that somebody got used to. They walk past this Robert E. Lee statue every day, and it's like, oh, that's part of our culture, and it's like, it really isn't.
Right.
It's just there, and it's not going to change your daily life if that's gone. It's no one's taking your heritage away from you. If that's gone, you're
Right.
giving something to other people. You're giving a safer space, a peace of mind.
Right.
If that's gone. And I mean, with the, I get it. I get that it's going to take a second to get the Stone Mountain monument of Robert E. Lee and Stone Jackson and
Stonewall Jackson. Yeah.
Stonewall Jackson and
Jefferson Davis.
That's going to take a second to blow that off the side of the mountain because it's etched in the mountain.
Right.
But that's more logistics than anything else.
And
that's not. That shouldn't be a social uprising. To take it down.
Their faces are in the mountain.
They're on horses.
And Bull Connor and like,
it's
oh my
crazy.
God. Like,
but I mean, I used to go to these events there. They'd have a big laser show. With Pink Floyd playing,
No.
for
Dear
4th of July. And
Lord.
People
stuff,
probably don't even
but
know what that means. It's like,
No,
tell me
they
the history of
don't.
each one of these people.
They couldn't. I mean, when I was a
Oh,
kid, I
yeah.
couldn't. It took me forever to even figure out who was up there because I
Well,
didn't care. But at the same time, it does
exactly.
matter because it is up there and people do care. I mean, because
Right.
people, if you have to go to this park for the laser show, but you have to ignore that what this stands for, that into itself is just atrocious. And it
Right.
took me a second to figure that out because I was just a kid. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And now it's like, yeah, we can put something better on the side of that mountain. It might take a second. It might take some more money, but it's doable. It's not
Right.
It's
not out of the realm of possibility.
Right.
You think you and I could get a bunch of Sharpies and like maybe draw like a unibrow on Robert E. Lee and like
absolutely
a mustache on or maybe shave his mustache.
I'd say we get your climbing gear. We climb up.
Sure.
And then we just start etching. We get some picks and
hammer and chisel.
Thank you, hammer and chisel.
Y'all don't incriminate yourself.
Oh, we wear balaclava.
We're just it's just we're giving back to the community. It's
the Stars and Bars. I remember when I was in middle school. It's like the late 90s. Dating myself, the Stars and Bars were still on the South Carolina state flag.
They were still on the Georgia state flag.
And there was a big old thing to remove them. Like Stars and Bars on numerous Southern state flags.
We had a project when I was in middle school to redesign the Georgia state flag.
Oh, like draw your idea?
Mm-hmm.
What was yours?
I took, what's the big oak tree? It's like a weeping oak.
A live oak?
Live oak, yeah.
Like the South, the symbol of the South, live oak, yeah.
I took that and then the Georgia emblem on the back. So the tree was kind of the forefront, and then the Georgia state emblem.
Sounds corny.
It was. It didn't work.
I like it. I'm like, what? Back to nature, growth. Trees, tree of life.
Oh man,
tree of knowledge.
The tree
of knowledge.
Can we have the state flag should be the live oak falling on Robert E. Lee.
On Robert E. Lee.
That's the state flag.
Do we even have to see Robert E. Lee? Like,
no, his likeness is nowhere near the flag. How about that? Oh my God. So we don't want to take up too much more of your time, but in closing, what are some of your final remarks, your message to would-be actors? Because let's talk about, we've talked a lot about the craft of acting today. And B, what you want people to take home with them after a night of theater that moves them.
Well, I would say to would-be actors, like, start understanding your value now, and don't let others, that being directors, casting directors, theater companies, professors, teachers, anybody, try to tell you what your value is, because that can really mess up you in your career. Because honestly, the theater, once when it comes into its actualization of its potential of being a place of imagination, there shouldn't be any categories of boxes that you need to put yourself into. You can play whatever you want, honestly, like that don't pertain to stories that are, telling of race stories, and representation always matters. Always matters. And also what I mean, you can play anything. Like you can play the love interest, you can play the villain, you can play the old man, you could play whatever. Like honestly, you could play. Don't put yourself in boxes. It's a waste of time.
I love that. Know your value.
Yeah. And don't take abuse from anybody. Shut it down. And stand up for your other actors too when that happens. Because it will, unfortunately, it will happen. Then what I would say to people to take home after they experience a night of theater, if it moves you so much, then let it move you to activate, to do something about it.
Move you to action.
Move you to action. Yeah. Because your feelings don't really do anything without action.
They do something for you, but not outward.
But not for exactly. If it moves you so intensely where you want to make a difference, then make a difference.
Latoya Cameron, you're beautiful. You're brilliant.
Will you hang out with us for a second after we sign off?
Yeah, I have a couple minutes before I have to jump into taking more phone calls.
Wow, look at you.
Busy
Thank you for
lady.
fitting us in. Wow.
I'm not that
well,
cool.
we're lucky to get, we'll decide what's cool around here, and it's you, baby. So that's awesome. I'm so glad you took the time. Wasted some an hour and a half of your time with two schmohawks like us.
Never a
But
waste.
you had some wonderful things to say about
Brilliant.
art and
Yeah.
race and the world at large. So thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you on the next stage.
Yes, absolutely. I can't wait to
thank
see you
you.
on stage again.
Thanks for having me, both of
All
you.
right, girl.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Signing off. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Hack Attack and the Pharaoh.
Catch you next time.
Boom.
Bye.
Yeah, perfect.